Hi everybody, Emil here. We're going to wrap up our institute with this 13th and final unit, which is a unit that is all about citizenship and behavior. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So schools have really always played a role in teaching students how to be good citizens, and this now extends to the digital world as well. So these last few lessons is going to take us through some of the more important things that we need to be doing to make sure that our students have a positive experience online. So let's talk a little bit about the internet. It's a real place. It's a really big place, actually. And just like you need to be careful about certain places in the physical world, you need to be a little careful about some places in the online world, too. There are large parts of the internet that are completely safe, and you can often wander freely without a worry. But there are other places that are much less secure, maybe even places you would want to avoid completely. So, if you're sensible, you don't take silly risks, and you know what to look out for. And it's the same thing in the online world. So what I want you to do now is just take a few moments here and visit the URL that I'm putting directly above me here, and check out this short little video on knowing what to look out for. And then once you're done, come on back and we'll take a look at a couple other videos as well. Now, just as you might teach your own kids how to cross the road safely or avoid talking to strangers, we need to teach kids how to be safe online as well. So what I want you to do again is just copy-paste that new URL above to take a look at this short video on cybersecurity. The internet is not fundamentally a bad place. It really isn't. But it would be a mistake to not teach our kids about the risks that are involved with using the internet. It starts with knowing how to behave online. It starts with being respectful to others and maintaining an appropriate level of personal privacy. So by now you know the drill. One more video. Copy pasta the URL above and view the short video on maintaining personal privacy. All right. Now, whether online or off, you should always stay away from trouble when you recognize it. Staying safe in the online world means maintaining a healthy skepticism about things that you read, being able to spot a scam or a hoax, and understand that when something appears too good to be true, it probably is. So let's try a quick little review of a resource by going to your Unit 13 page under Activity 24. Please take some time and review the content that's found on the Stay Smart online website. It's a really good resource. Take some time to go check that out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about passwords. Managing passwords is something that all students need to master, and I contend all adults need to master. With Google Apps for Education enjoying widespread popularity in classrooms all over the world, really, the need to create and remember a password is really something that many students just haven't mastered and need to learn how to do more efficiently, more effectively. So here are a few tips for managing student passwords. First of all, we need to start young. The kids should start dealing with passwords at a very young age. We should make things, managing passwords, easy for them. And we need to teach them to keep things private. So how young are we talking about? I actually say kindergarten. A lot of teachers choose to use the same password for all students when it comes to kindergarten through grade 2. Something easy for the students to type and remember. That can also meet the required password complexity rules for our IT policy. One idea that works well for young kids is to base the password on a pattern of keys on the actual keyboard itself. As students get a little bit older, grades 3 and up, they should definitely start to create and manage their own passwords. It's worth giving some explicit lessons on ways to pick a password. Some suggestions might be to use a word and a number combination that's meaningful to them, or to turn a familiar phrase into a password, or to take a common word and swap out some of the characters for symbols, like the dollar sign for the letter S, or the @ sign for the letter A. Very young students still forget their passwords regularly until they've used them many, many times. So a good idea is for teachers to keep a list of their login details, maybe on a Google Sheet. If a student forgets a password, their teacher can look it up. This is usually a lot simpler than having to reset passwords and have the students pick a new one, which they typically also forget the very next time. No matter what age your students are, it's important that they learn to never give their password to anyone. Parents and trusted teachers can be an exception, certainly, to that rule, but students should understand that giving their password to a friend for them to use is a very bad idea. If someone knows your password, they can log in and pretend to be you online, and that's just asking for trouble. So don't share passwords ever. Which brings us to our final activity. I'd like to ask you to take some time now and go back to your Unit 13 page, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at Activity 25, and I'm going to talk you right through it. So for this final activity, I am going to ask you to create a slides presentation that you can use in your classroom to help your students learn some of the ideas for managing their passwords. So here's the criterion for the activity. Your slide should provide basically an explanation of what makes a good password. If you teach very young students, you should probably include a screen showing the different character types, like uppercase and lowercase and numbers and things of that nature. You should include in your slides ideas about choosing a password, showing examples of good passwords, and certainly showing also examples of bad passwords. And remind them about these 2 rules about passwords. That first, passwords should be easy to remember but hard to guess. And 2, they should never give their password to anyone except a parent or a trusted teacher. Now, created a little template for you to work off of, so you can just get started using the little link that is available for you right there at the bottom of the screen, so you can get started, and you don't have to start something from scratch. But take some time now and put a nice little slide deck together for the first day of school so you can teach your kids all about cybersecurity. And that brings us to the end of the 13th unit here. So I certainly recommend that you take that practice test for that final unit as well. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're ready and feeling confident, you should then put Google Apps into play. Maybe try some of the new things that you may have picked up while you were in our institute. In practice with your students, and then register for that assessment. By now you should have already received your vouchers to go ahead and register for the test. Take it easy. There's no rush. You can take the test when you need to take the test, but I believe the vouchers do expire either in 6 months or in a year or so. You can contact Learning Innovations with Technology, and they can share that with you. The last thing I want to leave you with, though, is kind of an advanced little concept, which is not going to be covered in the assessment, but I had several people come up to me and ask me questions about it. And it's germane to this particular topic of passwords. And so the number one threat to passwords, as I hope you already know, isn't so much passwords that are not complicated. It's actually it's the reuse of passwords. If I can crack your one password and you've been using the same password for a whole bunch of websites, now I have access to everything. And you might be saying, yeah, but the reason I do that is because I don't have room up here to remember thousands of passwords or hundreds of passwords. And if you're anything like me, I access hundreds of online websites all the time. Am I to be expected to create a new complicated password for every single one of the websites that I access? And the answer is yes, you are. But don't make the mistake of having your browser remember your passwords, because that is totally unsafe. The browser does remember your passwords, but it remembers everything in clear text. And so if I ever access your device and you're not around, I can figure out what your passwords are for every single website that you have. It is a totally insecure way to do it. So every time the browser pops up and says, hey, would you like me to remember your password? Don't do it. It's not a good idea. I know that there was some discussion about how Google can remember your credit cards and store it, and sometimes when you go to use a website that does not have the secure socket layer into it, that Google won't even allow you to use the password. But you know what? I agree that that's certainly convenient, but that convenience is not worth the ability for a 12-year-old to be able to access your browser, take a look at the clear text passwords that you've stored in your browser, and basically take off with everything you got. So what are you going to do about it? Well, let me show you. This is what I do about it. I use a system that's called Password Manager. And a Password Manager is something that basically takes care of all of your passwords and encrypts them with military-grade encryption. And the system that I personally use is called LastPass, and it's this guy right over here. It's actually, they've got a really nice extension for every single browser, except, of course, the Edge browser, which is Microsoft's new browser. But it's a tremendous system, and the idea behind the tool is that you create one master password, and that becomes the master password. It's the last password that you will ever use, a ridiculously complicated password that you do need to commit to memory, but you use that one password to be able to access a locker that houses all of your passwords for your various sites. So let me show you what that basically looks like. So here I am. I'm going to want to maybe go to, let's see, what account am I going to want to access here? I'll try to access my Reddit account. So I come over here to Reddit, and this is where I would log in. And as you can see, because I'm logged into LastPass already, my username and my password is automatically included added into the form itself. But take a look at what happens when I log out of LastPass. When I log out of LastPass and I refresh, it doesn't log anything in for me, you see. So basically, this system, this LastPass system, allows me to have a different password, a ridiculously complicated password for all of my different websites, you see. And so the password that the bad guys would have to crack would be my last password. Now let me show you how complicated my last password actually is. So here I am on a website. It's called How Secure Is My Password. It's howsecureismypassword.net. And this is a place where you can come in here and you can enter your password to see how complicated it actually is. And so the most commonly used password is password. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, a single computer can crack that password instantly. I mean, no time, right? Here's another very common password that's used out there, which is princess. Also, same thing, instantly. Let's take a look at how quickly a computer can crack the default password we give out with SAUSD accounts. My SAUSD would take 200 milliseconds to crack a password is that complicated. Now, what if I was to include, how about password and the number 1? Doesn't matter. How about the number 2? Oh, look at that. By complicating it with 2 numbers, it'll take a whole day for a computer to crack it. How about adding a third one? It'll take 1 month for a computer to be able to do a brute force attack and get my password. I'm going to go ahead and enter my last password into the system so that you can see exactly how long it would take for a slew of computers to actually crack my password. 4 billion years, folks. Yeah, that's a powerful password. I've actually used passwords that have gone into the trillions of years, believe it or not. So what I'm trying to get at is that you should maybe, if you're so inclined, explore the possibility of using these password lockers. And there's a number of them. There's one called KeePass, Dashlane. There's one called OnePass. I happen to use LastPass. And it's absolutely free, by the way. And what I do is I pay $12 a year. Oh, I'm getting a call. One moment, please. Sorry about that. And so I was saying, it's a very simple process. I pay $12 so that I can access LastPass on my mobile device. And if you want to be able to access the system on mobile devices, just $1 a month. But otherwise, it's absolutely free. And as you can see, it comes on as an extension that you can add on to your browsers and just log in with your browsers. The trick, of course, is to log out of LastPass every time you get out of a session. Because if you keep it logged in, well, anybody can access your stuff instantly all the time. And so I recommend it. I certainly would love to help you out with it. There is a little bit of a learning curve with it because LastPass doesn't go through all of your accounts like your Amazon, your SAUSD portal, your stuff, and change your passwords for you. You're going to actually have to go in and change your passwords and make them very complicated and then record those passwords into LastPass. It's like a half-day project for most people. But if you're really interested in hygiene and keeping your stuff safe and private, I highly recommend you take a look at that. Okay. With that, I hope you all had a great institute. If you need anything, you know where to find me. Otherwise, go ahead and call the Learning Innovations with Technology department. They've got some excellent specialists who can support you on an individual basis. It was a pleasure to meet you, and hopefully I'll see you in the second workshop coming up soon. Thanks.